continues, it said, إِلَّا بِحَقِّ الْإِسْلَامِ. It said, except for the right of Islam. So I said the zakat is from the right of Islam. So it said, by Allah, I will fight them for any rope of a camel that they used to pay to the Prophet ﷺ. I will fight them for it if they refuse to pay now. Okay? It's not talking about somebody trying to hide the taxes. It's not talking about tax evasion. This is about talking about somebody who's turned their back upon the zakat. They say, look, we used to... They say, look, we used to pay the zakat, but we're not going to pay it anymore. We've given up. Okay? Like somebody said, I used to pray, but I don't want to pray anymore. I've given up. No more prayer. This is called desert in the salah. It's called it's called kufr i'rad, turning your back upon the deen. That's what they did, and that's what they were careful. Not that they didn't say that the zakat not fard. They said we don't care if it's fard, and we're not going to do it anymore. Okay, and not only that, they prevented their whole tribe, and they were willing to fight Abu Bakr in order to stop him implementing the Sharia of zakat. That's why they become apostates from Ta'if and Mumtani'ah. Okay, yes.
With matters like, for example, democracy and war and things like that, how we know this. It's a new matter, so Sahaba didn't speak quiet. It's a new matter, so the Sahaba didn't speak quiet. Do we can't say that it's Ijmaa, but
no.
Even on the proof.
Right, so with the democracy, okay, I'll give a quick example on the board chart for this, okay? So if we give...
People will say, oh no, this scholar says no, that scholar says no.
No, I agree. I agree, they will say that, yeah. So look, if we talk about democracy, now, first of all, have there been groups of scholars that come together in a committee and debated the matter and discussed what is democracy and come up with a verdict? Yes, there has been, multiple times. Ibn Baz, Uthaymeen, they had, from the Hayat Kibar Ulama, they had a committee and they agreed. Democracy is shirk. I'm not going to say that's ijma', okay? Even though I don't think anybody really disagrees about the fact that democracy is shirk. What they are disagreeing with about is, can we use it for our benefit anyway? Is there any rukhsa, any necessity, any way for us to find a loophole, to take advantage or to exploit it? That's what they're talking about. They all say, of course democracy is shirk, we don't believe in it, we don't want to do it, but we're just saying, look, let's just pretend here, pretend there, put a little piece of paper in to benefit us. That's what they're talking about. Now, is that allowed, is it not, is it kufr, is it shirk? This is where they may be different about it. Now what we can say about here is you have different elements. One is, what is democracy? Two is the hukum of democracy. Okay. The other is our necessity, okay, or situation, okay, today. And the fourth thing here is Hakimiyya belongs to Allah. Now, the fact that Hakimiyya belongs to Allah, that the law, the legislation, the right of legislation belongs only to Allah and people have no right in it, this has clear ijma'. There's no dispute about that. Everybody agrees about that, from the early generation, from the Sahaba, from the Tabi'een, from the later generations. People agree about this. There's no dispute that the law belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's because of this reason that we know what democracy, because of this reason we know the hukum of democracy is that it's shirk and it is not acceptable. Okay, so I can't say that there's ijma' on the meaning of the word democracy or what is democracy, because honestly people don't agree, especially lay people, but even people who should know better, who are knowledgeable, because quite frankly many of the people who we know as famous knowledgeable people, as scholars and students of knowledge, they're very knowledgeable on other non-political topics, because the governments don't believe scholars should be knowledgeable about politics, so don't let them study in the politics. They have a policy since the last 100 years, or even less than that, let's say, of saying secularism, secularizing the ummah, secularizing the deen, to say leave for Caesar what is Caesar's and leave for Allah what is for Allah. But it happens to be that Muhammad bin Salman claims to be Caesar. So he believes it's all for me. You Muslim, you worshippers, you pious people, you go worship on Jum'ah and don't bother me, about my politics. I'm Caesar. I'll deal with the Caesar stuff. So why are you studying politics in the university for? Arrest this dean. Arrest this man. Okay, put a different scholar. What are you going to teach the people? You're going to teach them politics? No, teach them wudu, salah, haid, istihada. That's what you're going to teach them. Focus on this. So there are many people who are very knowledgeable, but they don't study these topics. So they don't usually have a big topic. There's no curriculum, syllabus, course in your degree, Sharia degree, studying what is democracy. You don't have that. Okay, so people are very ignorant. So you ask one person what is democracy, they say you shura is consultation. They say Abu Bakr, he was democracy. They voted for him. They'll say this. There was another person. What is democracy? They'll say to have a fair trial. Is to be, have due process. Is to be fair. And some people think that they invented this. Democracy invented these things that they didn't exist before. Because that's the propaganda. You're spoon-fed. You're force-fed this since you're a child. Since you're in primary school now, they'll tell you about democracy. If you want to come into this country, you have to learn about life in the UK. There's a big section. You have to believe. Okay, UK, we are democracy. UK, we have this constitution, we have this, we have that, and these are part of our society. You have to understand, you have to believe this. So you are taught about democracy as being every good thing in the universe. Okay, whatever is good, fairness, treating people nicely, having a nice leader, ruling by consent. Any bad leader, that's not democracy. Even if it is democracy, any bad thing that happens anywhere in the world, Russia, assassinates one of the people of dissent. See, proof they're not democracy. They're still a constitutional democracy. No, it's not democracy because they did something bad. It's evil. Only good things happen in democracy. So that propaganda means people really don't know what democracy is. In that sense, there's no ijma. Even actually, to be honest with you, even non-Muslims who believe in democracy, they can't agree and decide what democracy is. Who is democracy, who is not democracy. If you have slavery, are you democracy? Democracy had slavery for 1,000 years, 2,000 years. It's only yesterday that they abolished it. When they were doing dumping the slaves in the middle of the ocean, like cargo from the ship. Well, you think Britain at that time was not a democracy? They didn't have democracy, they didn't have parliament, didn't have elections, have votes. They had all of that. It was democratically legal for them to do all of this. They had democracy, but if you ask them today, they say it's not democracy if you have slavery. So, even in their own minds, they can't agree what democracy is. So nobody has ijma about what democracy is. And in terms of the ruling of democracy, to some extent, if you understand this and you understand the link, then people, of course, they will agree. But I'm not going to say that, okay, we have proof of ijma on this issue, because we can't have that until it's become something so known and so obvious to everybody. However, the reality is that if you know what democracy is, there's no way that you can escape from the fact that Allah is the only legislator and democracy is in a direct contradiction with that. There's no way you can escape that fact. But if you're under the delusion that democracy means shura, then I can see why you're going to be confused and you're going to be out of your ignorance. But it's not a valid, genuine ikhtilaf. It's not a genuine difference of opinion. And the other issue is on our necessity, whether we are under duress or not, whether we're being forced, so we have to vote, whether these votes are choosing a legislator, or if it's just choosing your benefits, or if it's just choosing between lesser two evils, or if we're all being forced by the necessity, and that we're going to save the lives of the people in Gaza by putting the piece of paper. People are not all in agreement about this because they don't know about it. Yes.
Sure, but there's a masjid that tells people to vote and then a masjid considered masjid without.
Oh, see, look, if somebody, when you say the masjid, what do you mean by the masjid? Who in the masjid is telling that?
Like the main imam khatib.
So, we're talking about the imam, not necessarily talking about the masjid. The masjid does not belong to the imam. But Masjid Dirar, this is one element of Masjid Dirar, because the masjid is being used as a minbar to promote the kufr on behalf of the kuffar. That's one of the conditions. There are 3 other conditions. So perhaps this is not really a masjid. Maybe it's now a community hall or something like that, or a prayer room. But rather than declaring a true Masjid Dirar, we'll say that it's not a masjid. And so we don't treat it like a masjid, but we might treat it like a prayer room, like a prayer room in your college or something like that, where people can pray. But when you're not praying, it's just it's just another room, it's a classroom. Okay, so treat it like that, inshallah, rather than declaring it as Masjid Darar officially. Okay, we've only got a few more minutes, inshallah. So, I hope that makes sense, inshallah. Okay, so the element that there is ijma' on is the fact that the Hakimiyya belongs to Allah alone. And anybody who understands the link between all of these, they're not going to be able to really disagree about the rest of it as well. Okay, yes.
What do you say about the people that say, well, there's people that believe that Allah is everywhere. What do you say about the people that consider them Muslims?
There's nobody who really says Allah is everywhere. There are no, this is usually very lay, ordinary, ignorant people. The only people who used to say that Allah is everywhere are either extreme Sufis who believe in Wahdatul Wujud, or the people who, from some of the extreme Mu'tazila, but they don't really exist anymore. There are people who, when they say Allah is everywhere, they mean as out of matter of Allah is everywhere in His love or something like this, but rather than believing specifically that Allah in His own that is everywhere. Nobody has that as an official opinion anymore these days. It's not really an opinion. The Ash'aris don't believe that, nor do the Maturidis believe that, unless you're talking about a very lay, ordinary, ignorant person who actually doesn't read any of the books of Aqeedah and they're just speaking from their own how. If they are referring to, for example, the verse of the Quran, which they misunderstood, when Allah Ta'ala says that He is with you wherever you are, maybe somebody could have misunderstood this. But if they understand this refers to Allah's being with you in His support and His knowledge and knowing everything that you're doing, then there's no problem with that. If they mean literally, physically, He's everywhere, then obviously this is a kufr belief. This is a kufr belief. Okay. Yes.
Regarding the Shia, how we say Allah is without a location, is this belief kufr?
They don't say Allah is without location. They say that Allah exists without makan. Makan is the creation of Allah of this universe. So they're saying Allah is not in this universe, which is true, right? What they are avoiding to say is that Allah is فوق عرشه فوق السماوات, that He is above the throne, above the heavens, but the throne is not in this universe. It's above the heavens, and Allah is not in this universe. Their point is that Allah cannot be contained by the four directions, the north, south, east, west, up, down, and that Allah cannot be contained by the creation. He cannot be carried by the throne. All of this is true.
But does Allah not descend unless there is a man?
Yes, but he descends in the way befitting to His majesty. We don't know how, but He is separate from the creation. He's not inside the creation. He is always distinct from it, and He can come close to it and far from it as He wishes. We don't say that Allah is inside the heaven. Allah is above the heaven.
Is it incorrect to say that He can enter and leave the creation?
We don't say this. There's no evidence. We don't add anything to the text. So if there was a verse or hadith that we said Allah can enter, we could say okay, Allah can enter, but we don't say that. There's nothing like this. Right? Rather, that would be coming which contradicts the text that we have, because Allah Ta'ala is not inside the creation, and that's why Ibn Arabi was made takfir upon. People call him kafir because he said Allah was inside him. It's a kufr akbar. You understand? Because when he made the statement, there's nothing under my thawb except for Allah. This is kufr akbar. You're declaring yourself Allah, you're saying Allah is inside you. This is complete kufr. Right? So to say that Allah enters the creation, is that what the Christians said? The Christians said that, and they had ijma', by the way, because they had a big council of Nasiyah and they declared that Jesus was God and Jesus was part of the Trinity. So their ijma', that's why we don't want to have this later ijma' of the Khalaf, because we're going to end up like the Christians. Okay, you're going to end up inventing a new belief and become like the Christian. But their belief was, yes, that Allah can enter the creation, and He entered into Jesus, into the form of a human being. This is tashbih. This is not, on the apparent, this is tashbih. So we don't say things like that. And we don't describe Allah in any way other than what Allah described Himself. Okay? Yes?
Sometimes people claim there's like ijma' on certain topics, and they quote like scholars who narrate ijma'. They also
yeah. I mean, even the language, this language is wrong as well, because yes, somebody could narrate ijma', but what kind of ijma'? Is that ijma' proven? Just because he said it is, it doesn't mean it is. Sometimes people, they quote, scholars will say there's ijma' on this, and they don't even believe there's ijma' on this. What they mean is that lots of scholars have agreed, or lots of Muslims have agreed on it. For example, Ibn Hazm, he described the different opinions among the Muslims about marriage for a child. okay, before the age of puberty, and whether it's permissible or with the permission of the father, or because we agree that it's haram, okay, with the exception of with the father's permission. However, is there agreement upon that? He said there were different opinions about this. Ibn Shabrma said it was haram, and Ibn Asam said it was haram, and this person said it was haram, and that said it was haram. But other scholars, they said it was halal. The 4 Imams said it was allowed, and they said that, and the Ummah have agreed that it's allowed. What your whole statement is a contradiction. You just listed 3 people that disagree. So how can the Ummah agree and 3 people disagree? And not only that, Ibn Hazm doesn't believe in Ijmaa after the Sahaba. So this Ijmaa that he's narrating, he doesn't even believe it's an authority. He's just talking about it from a perspective of linguistic meaning, that Muslims have agreed, lots of Muslims generally, from the Ummah, because the four madhahib are the ones that spread the most, that they generally have agreement on this opinion, but it wasn't the only opinion. So sometimes that's all they mean by that. They don't mean it is real Ijmaa, that is an authority like a divine evidence, like Ijmaa Sahaba. They're not necessarily saying that. And even if they said it, they have to prove it. Imam Ahmad's argument, and he was from the first 3 generations. His argument was that anybody who makes this claim of this Ijmaa, they're a liar. How are you going to prove it? Just say, I don't know, anybody who disagrees. That's a different matter. That's a different statement. So people can claim that. It doesn't impress me, because they usually claim it when they don't have any evidence for their position, and they want to rebut you, but they don't know how to respond. So they just say, oh, there's Ijmaa, you're going against the Ijmaa. It's not necessarily the case. Okay. We don't have time for any more questions, inshallah, so we'll stop here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك ربي وأتوب إليك. If you can help pack up, inshallah, as quickly as possible.